Let me first talk to you about how to get a startup business loan, because we're having a conversation about startup business loan using EIN only, low documentation. But you need to understand there are 3 essential steps to getting a startup business loan using EIN only with low documentation. You need to create a business plan. You need to have a financial plan. So when we talk about business plan, we're talking about a business plan that incorporates a financial plan. You need to have financial projections because you're a startup, right? So you don't have actual revenue. So you need to actually project data. That's the first thing you have to do. The second thing is you need to check your business and personal credit. The thing is, simply because you're a startup does not mean you don't have a business credit score. You might have a business credit score for that matter. Why? Because when we talk about a startup, the technical definition is any business that has been in operation for less than a year. So if you have been in operation for less than a year, chances are, let's say 6 months, within the last 6 months, you probably have a credit score because you have registered with Dun & Bradstreet. You got your DUNS number. So you probably started interacting with a few suppliers here and there, a few lenders or credit card issuers. So you could probably have a business credit score. So what I'm trying to say here is that you need to check your business and personal credit. And then you need to find lenders and apply. So I'm actually going to go a little deeper throughout the conversation, but I just wanted to sort of like put it out there and say, hey, listen, if you're looking for a startup business loan using EIN only with low documentation, I really want you to focus on this trifecta. Create a business and financial plan, check your business and personal credit, and find lenders, then apply. Now, the thing here is that creating a business and financial plan, you don't have to do this yourself, because if you have no knack for preparing business and financial reports, then it's just better to outsource the whole thing. And nowadays, you even have software to actually do to get the job done for you, right? You have a business plan software, and in terms of financial reporting, financial statements, you can actually just outsource, quote unquote, outsource the whole tasks to the likes of QuickBooks, Zero, Wave, and so on and so forth. Okay, for checking your business and personal credit, you have to do this yourself, and so is the same process for finding lenders and apply. Now, how do you get a startup business loan with no credit using EIN only and low documentation? No credit means that you are basically talking about your no business credit. Okay. In some cases, we can talk also about no personal credit. In other words, you are 18 years old. You're just fresh out of quote unquote fresh out of the oven, and you're trying to have a business and you have a startup. So let's talk about that. By the way, welcome back to the show. It's really a pleasure having you here. I love having this conversation with you, and I wish to share a lot with you. So how do you get a startup business loan with no credit? When we talk about no credit, we're speaking about 2 levels: no personal credit and no business credit. So no personal credit means that you basically you're really fresh in terms of your financial future or financial present. So what you do is you want to focus all your efforts on having a business plan and a financial plan. Those are the 2 important elements. Okay. The thing is, you're telling the lender, hey, listen, I may not have any financial past, and so does my business. However, here we are thinking that we have a solid business plan, and in the future, in the next 3 to 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, what have you, my business will actually catapult into another category. Will actually start kicking ass. Now, it's easier said than done. But what you have to do here is you need to have a compelling business plan. Especially if you're trying to apply for this loan using EIN only, you need to have a compelling business plan. I'm talking about making sure that you have all the elements of a solid business plan. Everything from the introduction, the executive summary, all the way to the financial documents, the financial projections. I spoke earlier about the financial projections, but it's important. It's more important than ever. And if you want to get a startup business loan with no credit, you better want to start with alternative lenders. You can also start with your current bank or credit union, because they know you, This assumes that you have impeccable relationships with them. You have an impeccable relationship with them. You have been with them for a while. They know you. Okay, even if you're young, maybe you have. Even if you're 18, maybe you had an account with them. Your parents opened an account for you when you were like 12 or 13. So you have built some kind of history with the institution. Okay, so business plan and financial plan. Now, how do you actually get a startup business loan with no revenue? No revenue, using EIN only and low documentation. I want to quickly remind you of today's topic. We're having a conversation about startup business loan EIN only with little paperwork, okay? Poor credit, little paperwork. How do you get it with no revenue? No revenue means that you are doing something else. In addition to having a business plan and having a financial plan, those two must always be there. Whether you're looking for a startup business loan with EIN only in general, you have no credit, you have no revenue, a business plan and a financial plan they're always quintessential. Now, if you are looking for a startup business loan using EIN only with no revenue, there is a third element that you need to input into the whole equation. That is a business sector analysis. In other words, you're telling the lender, hey, listen, there are trends sector trends are positive. In other words, my industry, like I may not be making money now, but my rivals are making money. The industry is booming. My sector is booming. So it's just a matter of time before I start making money. Again, going back to what I said earlier, it is easier said than done. You got to go back to the origins. How do you actually pitch your sector to the lender? And the thing is, if you don't have no knack for writing business literature, please outsource this thing too. You can go on Upwork, you can go on Fiverr, you can go on freelancer.com. You have a lot of freelancer website where you can just pay someone $5 or $10 or $25 for that matter to write you a compelling, a captivating sector analysis report. Okay, it's all about showing the lender, hey, listen, no revenue right now for me, yes, but this sector is growing by double digits every quarter or every 6 months or every year. Okay, so it's really you wanna zero in on that particular aspect of things. Of course, in addition to the business plan and the financial plan. And the thing is, there has to be a correlation. There has to be harmony between those three elements. Talking about sector analysis, financial plan, and business plan. For financial plan, it's always projections. When you have a startup, you have no actual data. Unless you have been in a business for, let's say, 9 months or a year, then you can have actual data. But you want to really focus more on projected data. You need to focus on that. So how do you actually choose your best startup business loan using EIN only with low doc, and even if you have poor credit, you have no revenue? How do you actually do that? Well, the thing here is that there is some kind of strategy you need to have you need to put in place. Okay, the thing is that you need to actually look for startup business loan comparison platforms. You can actually go on certain platforms that allow you to put in your data, and they will actually match you with a constellation of players who would be very appealing to you. And right off the bat, I want to say that you want to focus more on online lenders and alternative lenders. In our experience for the last 35 years, we have seen that banks and credit unions tend to be a little more, I would say, more risk averse when it comes to startup business loans, especially using EIN only, unless you have, as I said before, a strong relationship with the institution. And when I'm talking about strong relationship, I'm not just talking about like, we have been with them for 10 years or 15 years. No, there are three things when we talk about when we analyze the strength of a relationship with the bank or credit union. We're speaking about the length, so the historical length, how many years we have been clients, and we'll talk about the diversity of accounts. So do you have a checking account, savings account? You have investment accounts. You need to have a constellation of accounts with them. And the third thing that we pay attention to is your history of negative items. In other words, have you had any non-sufficient funds event, overdrafts and whatnot? So those are really important things. Or if you have a credit card from the bank or credit union, are you current? If you have a loan, those are things that we pay attention to. So how do you choose the best startup business loan? You do three things. Go to a loan comparison website. You can also go to a startup business loan marketplace, such as LendU or NBC, National Business Capital. So that's the second element, the second step. Or the third step is to actually ask around in your entourage, ask people around and ask them, or just go on Google. Say, how to find a startup business loan using EIN only for my sector. So if you are in the restaurant industry, you put for the restaurant industry, and you just do this sort of trial and errors, sort of a step-by-step of Google. And one thing I want you to do, I want you to pay attention to, always go for the loans that allow you to have a soft pull first. Let's talk about where to actually get a startup business loan. Now I want to dig a little deeper here, okay? Because I just want to remind everybody, we are talking about startup business loan, EIN only, with little paperwork and poor credit, no revenue. So where do you actually get it? Where do you actually get it? Okay, well, you can go to your bank or credit union, assuming, of course, that you have a great relationship with them. You can go to community banks. You have regional banks. You have a layer. You have several layers of banks that could actually cater to those startup business loan, to those startup businesses that are looking for funding. You can go to online business lenders. You can go to SmartBiz. SmartBiz is a great player. You can go to Kalamata Capital Group. So here I'm just mixing alternative lenders and online lenders. I mean, the difference is that it's slight in our view. It's a minor difference. The only difference is that when you take alternative lenders such as Kalamata, for example, or Coastal Funding, they are more, I would say, risk takers. In other words, they'll lend to any kind of a business profile. Okay, if you have a startup, you're looking for EIN only, you have no credit, poor credit, no revenue, they'll take care of you. The only thing is they'll take care of you in exchange for a higher APR, stricter conditions. Okay, those are things you need to actually think about. And in some cases, you can actually get a startup business loan using EIN only with low documentation from a micro lender. And there are platforms that allow you to actually get a small loan. When we talk about small, we're speaking about loan amounts that are below $50,000. That's the threshold when we talk about micro lenders. So here you have Kiva, for example, that can actually help you get this sort of the non-profit loan. And you also have Accion, ACCION, Accion. And so those are the two players. And if you're looking to really get a startup business loan using EIN only with low documentation, you should also try. So I've talked about online lenders. I've talked about alternative lenders, right? You want to go for those loan marketplaces. And we have seen in our experience that when you apply for a startup business loan using EIN only, with low documentation and poor credit, no revenue on loan marketplaces, your chances of getting a loan are higher. Because when you actually apply at a loan marketplace, you are speaking directly to more than 75 to 100 business lenders. So one single application gets dispatched to that smorgasbord of business lenders. So this is really good. Now let's talk about how lenders assess loan application, because lenders really have a very specific way in which they actually evaluate startup business loans using startup business loan applications using EIN only. Okay, so generally speaking, a lender looks at your business financials, I spoke about that, and business credit to decide whether you qualify for a business loan. So two things: business financials and business credit. Okay, so it's really important to know that if you are a startup, You are looking for a business loan using EIN only. Your financials are important. So by financial, we're speaking about the 4 accounting reports, the primary accounting reports. We have your balance sheet, your income statements, your statement of cash flows, and your statement of owner's equity. So those are the 4 primary accounting reports that a startup business lender will pay attention to. You also need to have your business credit. So I spoke earlier about if your business credit, you might have one. You might have maybe 75 or 80 or 85 in terms of paydesk credit score. Who knows? So you really want to make sure that you really have that. If you do have it, that it is accurate. In other words, your paydesk reports, it doesn't have any inaccuracies. Okay, and so the thing you need to understand here is that you also need to think about your business plan. The lender will also rate your business plan. Now, having gone through this for the last 35 years, our team has seen that lenders don't want to read through 50 pages or 65 pages or 100 pages of business plan. And so what you want to do is you want to summarize the business plan into something called a business pitch, or an idea pitch, or a business model pitch. So this is usually a 1-page, and on a 1-page you tell the lender things that they should actually care about, why they should lend your company money. Okay, and so if you are planning to apply for startup financing using EIN only, please be prepared to actually have that too. You need to have a business plan. Okay, and I spoke earlier about the importance of having also the sector analysis. You need to have a sector analysis report. And what we have seen also in our experience is that if your startup has business assets, you might be compelled to actually use some of those assets as collateral when applying for a startup business loan using EIN only. Let's talk about how you need to explore additional business funding options. So the whole thing here is what? You are looking for a startup business loan using EIN only with little documentation and poor credit, no revenue. And you have tried, let's say you have tried with lenders, like regular lenders, traditional banks, regional banks, local banks, traditional credit union, national credit unions, local ones, regional ones, and nobody wants you. Like you have been rejected over and over and over. So it is about time to actually start exploring additional business funding options. I mean, you have tried with online lenders and alternative lenders also. They have not actually given you anything. So the whole thing here is that you cannot drop your business idea simply because you have not received funding in the first 3 months or 6 months. It takes time. You know, this is a marathon, not a sprint. You may not actually have a business loan, a startup business loan right away. Sometimes it might take 2 weeks, sometimes one month. We have seen in our experience that sometimes it can take, overall in general, and I think on average, it takes from like 3 days to 30 days to get a startup business loan using EIN only with little poor credit. Because you need to actually take into account the fact that you might have a back and forth with the lender, because the lender might want you to clarify a few things here and there. Even though we're talking about low documentation, we are still talking about 3 important elements, 3 important pieces of documentation: business plan, financial reports, and sector analysis that will explain to the lender what your startup is all about. Okay, but you might also want to seek additional funding from other sources, for example, friends and family. Okay, people who are close to you and are willing to lend you cash. They could be a great opportunity. You can think about venture capital, VC. You can think about crowdfunding. You can think about vendor financing. Okay, you can think about taking out personal loans or credit card and using that funding for your business. This is a little I would say sensitive though, and we would not necessarily approve of that, but it is what it is. If you have to do things, you can do it. Think also about grants. Grants also could be a great source of funding. One thing I also want to talk to you about here is that when we talk about the startup business loan with EIN only with little paperwork and poor credit, no revenue, I want to share with you what what the primary types of business loan you have. If you have a clear idea about the loan typology, you are in a better position, so you can actually say to yourself, listen, what do I really need? How much do I need? And what type of financing do I need for my startup? Using my startup. So if I'm looking for a startup business loan using EIN only, what types of loans are available out there? So I'm gonna share them with you. So you have invoice factoring. So with invoice factoring, the majority of lenders do not have a minimum credit score requirement. As a result, your application for funding from a factoring company may not involve a credit check. So you can actually do this using EIN only and low documentation. Okay, so this is kind of cool. And so you can also have ACH loans. So an ACH loan could be another funding solution to consider for your startup if you're looking for a startup business loan using EIN only with no revenue. Okay, so most lenders that issue ACH loans require a minimum credit score of 500 to 625, but in most cases also they pay attention more to the business financials than your personal financial history. Okay, so those lenders often perform only a soft credit inquiry that won't impact your credit score. What they do is that even though they do not take your personal credit into account for the business loan itself, they still want to dig a little deeper on your personal side to see that you are sort of like you're clean, quote unquote, you're clean on the personal side. You should also think about business lines of credit. Those could be also sources of funding where you can actually get a startup business loan or business line of credit using EIN only with little paperwork and poor credit. What we have seen here is that there are some companies that are able to convert a startup business line of credit into a startup business loan using EIN only. Blue Vine does that. Okay, On Deck does that sometimes. Fundbox does that. Cabbage from American Express, they do that sometimes if you have the proper application. So you have equipment financing also, which is another form of startup business loan. Startup business loan using EIN only with a little doc. Okay, so you have that. You have MCAs where you're speaking about merchant cash advances. Before I close to this conversation, I just want to tell you that, hey, listen, if we are talking about getting a startup business loan, we're using EIN only with little paperwork and poor credit. Please do not forget that you need to always work to bolster your credit score, or credit scores, I should say, personal credit score and business credit score. Why? Because sometimes it's not always possible to apply for a startup business loan using EIN only. The lender might want to focus on, they might want to pay attention to your personal credit score and business credit score. It is what it is. Some lenders are kind of flexible, some are not. And at the end of the day, it really depends on the solidity, the strength, the thoroughness when it comes to your business loan application, your startup business loan application, okay? But it's important to have in mind a strategy where you are constantly working on plan B. And plan B means that you are boosting your personal credit score, your business credit score. So when we talk about boosting your personal credit score, you know the deal, you know the drill, right? You actually have 5 elements to pay attention to. So your personal credit score, you have to make sure that you have a great payment history. You have to make sure that you reduce your CUR, your credit utilization ratio, because your CUR accounts for 30% of your personal credit score, and your payment history accounts for 35% of the same score. So you also need to make sure that you reduce the number of account inquiries, your hard inquiries. You need to diversify your credit mix, and you also need to make sure that you lengthen your credit history. That's for the personal credit side of things. For the business credit side of things, just pay attention to your payment history. And most importantly, when we talk about, so you want to pay your bills on time, but most importantly, you want to pay your bills way before the due date. This is how you actually increase your paydex score, for example. And paydex is actually one of the most, if not the most prominent business credit score. And paydex score, your paydex score ranges from 0 to 100, with the 100 being like perfect business credit score. So you really want to be in a position where for your startup, you are making sure that you are constantly paying your bills on time, so you can actually be at 80 or above that number. Okay, so that's really where the sweet spot is really at. Thank you so much for your attention. I really appreciate it. In today's conversation, I was just talking to you about how to obtain a startup business loan using EIN only with little paperwork and poor credit, no revenue. So I went through a lot of things, and I hope that you were able to learn something, to understand that when we talk about startup business loan using EIN only, we have a constellation of funding options, from MCAs, merchant cash advances, to regular business loans, to equipment financing arrangements, to business lines of credit for your startup, to also invoice factoring arrangements. Thank you. God bless you. I'll see you next time. But until then, remember, stay marvelous.